Welcome to the May 17th, 2022 Select Board meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Mr. Bennett to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll now ask the town clerk to lead us in the reorganization and election of a chair for the upcoming year.
Thank you. I'm opening nominations for the Select Board Chair.
I would nominate, if Gardner is willing to serve a second term, I nominate Gardner Trask as chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have any other nominations?
I have a nomination for Daniel Bennett.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any other nominations?
Yep. I nominate Select Board Member Maureen Bernard.
Do I have a second? Hearing none. Do I have any other nominations? None. Do I have a motion?
Motion to elect Daniel Bennett as chairman of the board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
No.
3-2? Dan Bennett? Is that what I heard or no?
You know, I didn't make a vote.
So is that 2-2?
It's 2-2, and the maker of the motion fails.
Motion fails. Do I have another motion?
I move the nomination of Gardner Trask, if he's willing to do it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Is that 3 noes?
3 noes.
So that fails.
So I move the motion to elect Dan Bennett, chairman of the board.
Second.
Madam Clerk, is there any discussion of the motions?
We could entertain that?
So I'm just wondering what it is that people feel Dan's qualifications are that he would be chairman for 3 out of 4 years. That's unprecedented. And you know, if there is an issue that with the chairmanship from last year, I'm certainly willing to hear it. I'm just wondering if there's a reason that Dan for 3 out of 4 years would be more appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with you. I think you've done a great job. I'm just a person of change. I think it'd be nice to have a change.
Maureen, I'm sorry, can you hold a second while I put my hearing aid in?
Oh, sure.
I want to hear what you say. Thank you. Could
Thank you.
repeat,
Yes,
please?
David. Gardner, Mr. Chairman, you've done a great job. I thank you very much. I'm just a person of change. I like to change things up, and I feel that, you know, we've had you. It's been great, but I'd like to see Dan, you know, take it over for this next term, and I think he's more than qualified, and he does very good explaining, and very, very proactive with the veterans, too.
And I don't think he's not qualified,
Yeah.
other than the fact that you were the person who nominated him last year, which gave him his second year, so I'm not sure about the agent of change. It's not a matter of is Dan qualified or not qualified, it's a matter of historic precedence. We've rarely had 2 in a row, only 3 times since I've been a selectman in over 16 years. And Dan changed that 2 years ago. And if that's the case, I don't understand the need for one person to qualify 3 out of 4 years. My feelings.
May I speak?
Yes, Mr. Miller.
I think Dan did a superb job. After his first term, I am the one, I know, maybe others did too. I asked Dan if he would be willing to serve a second term. He did, and he served a term through the worst of times. And I was so glad that I wasn't the chair. And so I have the greatest respect for his work and for his person. I also have watched Gardner several times as chair of this board. He does his homework. He does it beautifully. He's passionately interested in the quality of life in Danvers and always has been. And I think that Dan just had 2 years. Gardner is willing, obviously, to serve a second term. I think in fairness, Gardner should serve a second term, and I think that they're both highly qualified, and as I don't have to say any more about that. It's been a pleasure working with both. It has been reassuring working with both, and I just think it's appropriate that Gardner have this second term. Thank you.
Mr. Duggan?
I'm all set, thanks.
No comment. Mr. Bennett, have you anything?
This is a very difficult position to be put in. Gardner's advocating for it. I'm not necessarily advocating for it. It's my belief that it's up to the members to pick who they want to be their chair.
Okay. I believe the motion on the floor is made by Maureen Bernard for Dan Bennett, the second by Matt Duggan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Oh, no.
3-2, it passes. Dan Bennett.
Thank you. And Gardner, I thank you to you for last year for serving as the chairman. You brought us through a few landmines, most of them all successfully, and thank you for your service. At this time, we'll have an approval of the minutes of May 5th, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
Yep, we're here. So can we just clarify about the joint, we had a conversation about the joint resolution with the school committee at the last meeting. And there's some comments here that are not attributable to anyone. But I guess my question is, was there overall support for the warrant article number 5 when we were having this discussion? Because it says at the beginning, the resolution related to a recently voted 5-0 ATM warrant article by the board.
So there was a vote of 5-0, basically to send it to FinCom for discussion, and their recommendation, the recommendation was made by FinCom that there be a resolution jointly by the school committee and the select board to earmark certain funds back to the school upon any savings. There was no plan. I thought it was not a good budget policy instead of bad precedent, and this board voted 3-2 against the resolution.
Just as a point of clarification, when the warrant was acted on, it was voted favorably,
Correct.
not to send it on, but voted favorably. I'm just, as a point of clarification.
That's right.
Well,
yeah.
actually, we sent it unfavorably, no recommendation, or unfavorably. There's no,
I just wanted,
In
as a point of
between.
clarification, it was sent 5-0 favorably to the FinCom.
that's what it said here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. All set.
All set? All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. New public business.
Bill Bradstreet, elected precinct 1 for another term. During one of the budget meetings, one of the things that was brought up was a 2.5 override. And with that, there was a comment made that because we didn't have a 2.5 override on one of our projects, we ended up paying, it ended up costing us millions of dollars more than if we had done the 2.5 override. I'm a little unclear on how it works either way. If we, and one of the comments that was made, I think in this room, was that we've never had a 2.5 override. We're one of the few communities in the state that haven't done that. I guess my question is that a plus that we haven't, or is it something that we should be discussing that perhaps in the future, if it costs us less money in the long run, why wouldn't we do it? Obviously, if it costs us more money in the long run, that's enough said there, but I'm just curious about why we didn't, and how much did it cost us by not doing it? Does it affect the town status with, Ron nodding your head, with the accountants or whatever, bond rating, whatever? I'd just like some clarification on that.
Basically, and there are other people in the room with more knowledgeable than I am on it, but basically, we absorbed all the debt for the Smith School in the budget on our debt funding, rather than the 2.5 where you don't have to put it on immediately. You spread it out, and maybe Rodney can explain it better, but we did not go for a 2.5 override. We saved money because the interest was low. However, our debt that we are obligated to is higher than it would have been if we went with a 2.5 override. And I would ask Rodney or the manager to clarify that.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the distinction, but there's a budget override is different from a debt exclusion. And the comment that was made, I think at the Finance Committee, I think the term uses 2.5, but it was in reference to a debt exclusion. And some of the comments made at that meeting had to do with the way that the high school, middle school project was designed and built, but specific to the debt service and the way that it's structured, you can either level fund your debt like a mortgage, or what is more common is that you have declining debt service. So you pay higher rates, higher annual payments in the early years to buy down the principal fast so that it tails off quickly. With both the high school and the Smith School, the decision was made to level fund the debt, which kept the debt payments in the early years low, but carries with it considerable interest payments that could otherwise have been avoided in the out years. And that's one of the, when we talk about the debt service table each year and we talk about stacking those rectangles on top of each other, we save a little bit in our annual payments at the beginning, but on the Smith School, for example, we're carrying about $16 million more in interest than we would have had we structured it in a declining way, which would have required a debt exclusion because we don't have the capacity within our levy to do the declining debt service. So the trade-off is you pay less up front. The town meeting in 2040 is going to have bills to pay as a result of that. There are two different ways to do it. With respect to the rating agencies, it does impact your rating. The rating agencies look at how much of your debt service is being retired in the next 10 years, so that it moves every year, but they're always looking ahead 10 years. I believe it's 75%, 60%. So they want to see that 60% of your debt is going to be retired in the next 10 years. And each year they're doing a recalc on that. We're currently below that, not significantly, so it's not a red flag at this point. But you can't structure debt that way perpetually, or eventually your debt capacity is completely consumed by the out years, right? So it's, you borrow it, you need a certain amount of money to build a project. How much interest you pay on that is entirely dependent on how you structure that debt. So that's the conversation 3 years ago about Smith School. And so I think the point that was made is by avoiding a debt exclusion now, we're carrying interest later. So yeah, it's a trade-off. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's,
That isn't sound kind of like kicking the can down the road? You're going to have to pay one way or the other. I'd rather pay less than more, but I'm not sure in the beginning or the end.
well, the burden is either borne by taxpayers
the
today or
next
taxpayers in the future.
The next generation.
Right.
Quite a gift. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for the question, Bill. Any other new public business? Hearing none, we'll go to number 4. The board will consider an application by Laura Seeley on behalf of the Danvers Historical Society requesting permission to have an outdoor ceremony on the Page House lawn from 5:30 to 6 p.m. Thursday, May 26, blocking traffic west of Elm parking lot on Page Street to Cherry Street. Laura, welcome.
Hello, I'm Laura Silly with Danvers Historical Society, and we have a very unique event next Thursday evening. I hope you can all attend. We're going to be honoring Ann L. Page. We're putting up a very special marker. It's one of only 5 in the state of Massachusetts, honoring her role as a organizer of the Women's Association, which worked on many causes. One, of course, is the Votes for Women. This marker is also part of the National Historic Trail for Votes for Women, and you can go online and see all the different markers throughout the country, but this one will be one of only 5, and we're going to have some various speakers from around the state coming in. There might even be someone representing the national organization. Brief ceremony outside on the Page House porch, unveil the new marker, and move the festivities inside Tapley Hall. So we just thought blocking the traffic would help with the noise factor. And I do intend on inviting the neighbors tomorrow morning if you bless the road closure tonight.
Have you been in touch with the police about blocking the road or DPW?
Yes, I obtained the signatures required, and it's my understanding that DPW will provide some horses and/or cones that day, and I'll place them out at 5:20, 5:25, something like that, and then remove them as soon as we move inside Tapley Hall.
And DPW suggested that they'll give you the materials and you'll put them out?
Yep.
Does that sound appropriate, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Ms. Silly has touched base with DPW, and historically, when something happens during off hours, they would provide the barrier, leave it in the general area. The applicant would drag it across the road and then drag it back across the road, and then DPW would pick it up the following day.
Okay, great, thank
She's
you.
also been in touch with the police department as well as the fire department.
Okay, great. Questions, David?
Nothing, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I could say, Laura, the ceremony is 5:30 to 6. How long do you want to have the road closed?
Just for the portion that we're outside, so probably people will be arriving soon after 5, and there'll be group photos before the ceremony begins. I have a crew of volunteers helping with the event, and they'll be greeting people as they approach. So they'll be the ones to pull the horses across the street about 5:25. We'll keep remarks as brief as possible from the porch in front of the Page House. And like I said, after we unveil the marker, we'll move inside Tapley Hall, and we'll remove the barriers. So most likely before 6, the barriers will be gone.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing further.
Pat?
Thank you. Welcome, Laura, and it sounds like a great event. Can you just expand a little bit more? You talked about the porch, so you'll have like a podium with a PA system?
Yeah,
And then your guests will be like on the sidewalk and in the roadway?
and in the lawn.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Do you have
there
it?
may or may not be as many attendees to require moving into the street.
Okay.
It's more of a noise factor, out of respect for the speakers to
Yeah, I
block
think
the
you need a
traffic.
PA system because people will have difficulty hearing, I think.
Yeah, and there's still noise from
Yeah,
the
there's
rest of the
background
neighborhood.
ambient noise.
Yeah.
And I think reaching out to the neighbors is a good idea because what if they're trapped in there, like, say Mr. Bennett was trapped in his driveway and he suddenly had to leave for some reason, would he be able to get out, or is that?
He will be across the street pulling out the road blocking stuff.
That's
you.
He'll be driving over the cones. So that's the other thing. So
Volunteer list.
I would cones and sawhorses aren't really, I would put a vehicle sideways in the roadway to prevent anyone from coming through there, because in this day and age, having people like an audience in the road with just a cone as a protection is probably not sufficient. So I would just put a car sideways just to block the roadway. I think that makes it good. I don't think there would be any problem with doing something like that.
I think she probably should check with the police on that, because police, fire would need to get down.
Yeah,
If there's
that's a
a
good
horse there,
point.
you could drag the horse
Yeah.
and get the fire truck
Okay,
down.
just a thought.
but-
Maybe you'd like to follow up with the police
You
department.
can run over the horse, not the car.
All right, that's all I have. Good.
Thank-
I wish you success with the event.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gardner?
No questions, good luck.
Maureen?
I think it's a great event. Good luck.
Thank you.
And I'll put my dogs in at that time so they're not disturbing and barking at you all. As Vice President of the Historic Society, I will abstain from this vote. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the application as presented.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Abstained? One. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Hope to see you there.
You will. Number 5, the board will consider 4 applications for one-day wine and malt beverage licenses by the Danvers Historical Society, 11 Page Street, Samantha McHugh, event manager, for the Summer Beer Gardens event at Glen Magna, 29 Ingersoll Street, from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 21, Tuesday, July 19, Tuesday, August 16th, and Tuesday, September 13th. Hello, Sam, how are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
But just kind of expound a little bit on what you're looking for and what the
Yeah.
events are.
Yeah, we're hoping to build on the events that we held last year. Roughly, each event, we welcomed about 100 to 150 town residents. A lot of our couples that are getting married at Glen Magna came to see the grounds. And it was a really family fun event. A lot of young kids running around. Our service will end at 8 o'clock, so 30 minutes prior to the end of the event. That is a Massachusetts state law, to end 30 minutes prior to the event. And we're really hoping to, last year our activity, our entertainment was open mic, but we already have a couple prospect bands in mind to bring a little different for the guests.
Is all the paperwork in order?
It is.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Gardner?
And the people who will be serving, they're tip certified?
Yes, there's 3 tip certified individuals, myself included, that will be there.
Thank you, that's all I have.
And
Maureen?
we will be serving food as well, because that's also something to be conscious of with alcohol.
Good, thank you.
And
Maureen?
what are the events, the different dates? Are they,
Yep, so we try to pick the same, like, Tuesday of every month. So it's the 21st, the 19th the 21st of June, the 19th of July, August 16th, and September 13th.
excellent. Oh, good luck.
Thank you.
Matt?
Well, thank you. So I recall attending at least one event last year. I remember you had like a beer tent. Great beer, great IPA. But I do recall that the sound system had some issues. Have you resolved that?
Yeah, so that is probably one of the main reasons we're looking to hire or to have bands come in and play, so that they provide their own technology. I think if we are unable to find a band, we will be doing an open mic night, and hopefully we'll figure out the AP for that.
Yeah, the open mic worked well. I thought
Yeah.
they had people like basically coming in out of the audience.
Yeah.
So that was pleasant. It's just at times you couldn't really hear them
Yeah.
that well. So it's just a great experience, just sitting out on the lawn and hanging
It
out
is.
there. And it's a fundraiser, right, for
It
your group?
And I do want to say that we're doing a couple new things. So we're giving out beer koozies this year for participants and guests, as well as all staff will have like a volunteer staff shirt, so that it's a little bit easier for guests to know who to go to if they have questions.
Right. And they should know that they need to bring their own chair.
Yes.
And then one last question, is Glen Magna actually open to the public now, or is it still closed?
We still have it closed.
Okay, All right, well, I wish you success with all 4 events.
Thank you so much.
Just clarification, the gardens are not closed.
Correct. Sorry,
Yeah,
the
I meant
mansion.
I meant the building, I think, the house.
Mansion.
Right. Okay. David?
Nothing, Dan, thank you.
Thank you. Again, I will abstain from this. I will attend 2 meetings, 2 of the events, the other 2 will be here. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of a conflict, but that's okay. What's the will of the board?
Move the applications, all 4 of them as presented.
Second.
There's a motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstain 1. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you there.
The board will hear from the finance director on the quarterly report. Rodney?
Good evening, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, in front of you this evening, we have the Quarter 3 update for fiscal year '22. Happy to take any questions, but I'll run through a couple of the highlights. On the revenue side, we see some positive returns on the hotel motel taxes and meals taxes as we come out of the pandemic. Those are better than expected. We also have strong building permits this year already at 780,000, as well as additional Medicaid reimbursement funding, part of which was due to funding due to the pandemic. Everything else is mostly in line on the revenue side. Happy to take any questions, or I can jump into the expense side as well.
Any questions for Rodney on the revenue?
Can I ask about the cannabis impact fees? What does that represent?
So that is our host agreement we have with Sanctuary Medicinal. So as
That's
part
our
of that, they pay
electronics.
3% of gross revenue to the town.
Okay, that's
And
out on
quarterly payments.
Electronics Ave?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else? No. All right, continue, please.
And then on the expense side, most of the items are in line as we expected. A couple to point out, we did expend 75,000 from the FinCom reserve back in December. We still have 50,000 there. Public safety overtime for police and fire is running slightly over. Last night, of course, we had the fire transfer. Police's overage should be covered through some surplus in salary and wages permanent line. And then the other items are in line as expected. Snow and ice, slightly over the budget there, but should be able to be absorbed within the greater Public Works budget. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from members of the board?
Nope, looks
No?
good.
All right, Rodney, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the 3rd quarter. Okay, very good. Inflation is biting everybody pretty hard. I mean, even with the increase in the excise tax, hotel tax, will we be able to keep up with the inflation rate that is going forwards on expenses?
I think some of that will depend as we go out to bid on contracts and seeing how it affects both materials and services. We're seeing an uptick in some areas, but I guess time will tell.
Okay, something to watch out for. Thank you. Anybody else? No. Thank you, Rodney.
Yep.
Go ahead, a question.
Any question, Mr. Bradstreet?
Again, Bill Bradstreet, town meeting member. My question about the medical issue, we're getting opioid settlement funds over, I believe it's a 16-year period. I'm not sure how much we're supposed to be getting. How is, obviously, getting money coming in is a plus. Is it going to serve a good purpose when it gets here? How is it, or perhaps how is it going to be used to the benefit of the folks that live in town?
So, actually, go ahead, if you know more than I do. I think the short answer is we know as much today as we did about a month ago. We know that a settlement's been reached. We know that the settlement amounts are going to be distributed equally over about a decade and a half, and guidance will at some point be issued to towns and cities describing allowable uses, most likely having to do with public health or potentially crisis intervention. More to follow.
It won't go into the general fund?
No.
Is that it?
No, it's
Not-
specifically to be earmarked for specific uses. Again, as the manager mentioned, there's very broad guidance. The devil will be in the details as we move into receiving the funds.
Thank you.
Dan, may I
Yes,
make a comment?
please.
Don't need to write it, but while we're looking at the roster here, payments in lieu of taxes, $1,300,000. The citizens should know that the assessed value of real properties in Danvers is, if my figure is correct, about $5 billion. $1 billion of that is not taxable. It includes the Mass General property, the churches, St. John's Prep, and it just always strikes me as grossly unfair to the taxpayers that there be $1 billion worth of real estate generating $1,300,000 in taxes, when the rest of us citizens have to come up with $100 million to pay for all of our services, including the services that go to the hospitals, the churches, the school, the Aggie, the North Shore Community College. And I understand that some of them are state properties. Well, it's about time that there would be an adjustment so that the state properties make some form of payment or reimbursement to the town for the value of the services that I am paying for. And it always strikes me, and I know Steve has worked, I don't want to raise anything with Steve tonight because he has gone to the wall trying to do something with this, but I guess that for whatever time I have left, who knows, I'm going to bring that up all the time because it is a gross injustice to me at my age and the other people my age who've been paying our real estate taxes faithfully for 50 or more years. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7, the board will vote to appoint a 3-member elderly and disabled taxation aid committee. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board received an email update on May 6th, including the 3 names of the volunteers that our finance director spoke with. Also attached to that email was a slide from, I believe, our financial summit when we discussed, or the budget process. It was back in the fall. Our new assessor, John LaBelle, had discovered that many years ago the town opted into a portion of law that allows for people to make voluntary contributions on tax bills to support elderly and disabled. But in the 20 years after the town opted into the program, no committee was established to disperse those funds. I believe the total is somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000. And Sally Calhoun, who just recently retired from the Finance Committee, has agreed to serve. Joe Collins, our former town clerk and treasurer collector, has agreed, and Peter Korpusik, who's our former business manager from the DPW, and they will work alongside Jill Summit and John LaBelle, which are 2 positions that are statutorily required to participate. So tonight we're looking for a vote to appoint them, and then once they meet, convene with staff to develop guidance and essentially policies, they'll come back to this board to make a presentation for further adoption.
Certainly an all-star cast that you put together there, Mr. Town Manager.
It was Mr. Conley.
Mr. Conley.
I just said
thank you.
yes.
Questions, Gardner?
None.
Maureen?
I think it's great to appoint those people and, have people pay the elderly. That's great. Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, so I'm just, can you just explain what these 3 members, what their role is? Do they vet the requests to make sure that the people are qualified to receive the disbursements?
So eventually, long-term, that will be the plan. In the beginning, their job will be to establish the policies and procedures for how the money is distributed.
Okay, can you just briefly explain how that works? So say I'm an elderly person and I submit a request for part of this aid. Is there like a limitation about how much I can receive? Is it based on value of my home?
So those, again, will be all the questions that the committee will be charged
Okay.
with. Yeah, so now, it's just it's the Mass General law dictates that the committee should establish,
Okay.
like you said, the thresholds, how much to each individual, how often they can receive it, et
Yeah.
cetera, yeah.
So 40,000, that really doesn't sound a lot, sound like a lot, but I'm sure that every little bit would help if you're, you have a social security or whatever. So better to have a little bit to a lot of people than a lot to just a few people. So best to, help out as many people as we can. That's all I have.
I would note also the town has well-established elderly, disabled, and veteran aid that's already available through very well-defined statutory programs. So one of the things Mr. Conley discovered in researching this is that often communities will essentially create gap programs. So for folks who may fall just short either in terms of age or assets for some of the other programs, this can be used to kind of meet the needs that are being unmet currently. So, but a lot of flexibility. I think that group will come back and make a recommendation to this board in terms of what they think is appropriate.
Mr. Town Manager, can you tell the citizens that are listening how they would go about to find this information?
On the website, or you contact
Okay.
the assessors?
So for this committee, we'll produce information once the board has seen the policies and we advertise the program. For the existing exemptions, if you go to danversma.gov, the assessing page has a full list of current exemptions that are in
Thank
play
you.
right now.
Terrific, thank you.
David?
Nothing, thank you. Except I think it's a wonderful, wonderful selection of people, and we're very fortunate if they're all willing to serve. Thank you.
What's the will of the board?
Move to approve the appointment and whatever authority we have over it.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. The town manager will report to the board on various items of interest.
Keep it very brief tonight. Just a thank you to our town moderator, Pat Frazier, for running a very efficient town meeting last night, to staff for helping set up our return to the auditorium, to this board and the Finance Committee for their work throughout the process, and to the town meeting members for showing up and being engaged. So it went very smoothly. It was nice to be home, quote unquote, and that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Board will consider the consent calendar as they appear below or on the back side.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Correspondence, new business, previous business, select board closing comments. Mr. Mills.
Thank you, Dan. Just so that everyone knows, June is Pride Month, and our Human Rights and Inclusion Committee has been extremely active on Women's Black History Month, this June for Pride Month, and we've had a flag raising at the town hall. I think this is the 10th anniversary of our first raising, and 4 or 5 years ago, Chief Ambrose and members of the police department did a rainbow flag raising at the police department, and eventually both of our firehouse. There have been a lot of public agency support for the Pride flag in June. So there is on Thursday, June 2nd, a Pride flag raising out here in front of the town hall at 5, but to be preceded at the police station at 4:15. And then on Saturday, June 4th, there is a healing and unity experience and on Sunday the 5th is the Pride Party on the lawn of the library. And wow, the number of things that they plan to do and gifts they plan to give out to kids, and it's something that we have never had in Danvers before, and to me it's personally very exciting. And the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee will have its regular monthly meeting in this room on Thursday, 2 nights from tonight. And then my only other closing comment is that I have heard over and over again, I speak from a constituency of older people still paying their taxes and still wondering where all the money comes from. And I am concerned that the unresolved Essex Aggie situation is going to result in Essex Aggie having, for at least another year or two, a blank check on the checkbook of my constituency, the town of Danvers taxpayers. And that we are going to be facing, I think, a very problematic negotiation for rubbish removal a year from now. And all of my people are saying, are we going to have to pay to have our rubbish taken away in Danvers, or are we going to have to transport it ourselves to the landfill? I said, I have no idea. But if we start selling bags or have to put patches on them, I think it should say, this rubbish removal is the courtesy of Essex Aggie. Okay, so that's all, that's the only comment that I still worry about on the unresolved situation of the open checkbook. Thank you.
David, the Community Pride Party on Sunday, you have any idea of the time of the day?
Dan,
time of the day?
I think it's 2 o'clock, but I can check my,
Check where Matt goes.
yes, I will, yeah.
Matt?
Thank you. So I'd like to also speak to the warrant article from last night, Article number 5 of the Essex Tech enrollment cap. So I thought we had really discussed that in minute detail over the last couple of months. So I was taken aback last night when we suddenly had an amendment to, postpone the vote and continue discussion for, I'm not sure for how much further into the future, but when the vote was overwhelmingly in the affirmative to postpone, I was really taken aback. I think just myself and someone else way in the back voted no to that. I think what's happened is that people have align themselves emotionally with this issue rather than using, logic in terms of the financial impact that this continual increase in enrollments is having on our budget and our ability to forecast into the future. I think that people had the opportunity to voice their concerns over the past few months during the workshops, during the public hearings that we held. And so it was just a bizarre thing for me. I don't know if I've really seen something like that before at the 15 years of town meetings. So that was a disappointment. So I think we'll continue to see enrollment increases, not only at Essex Tech, but I heard recently that there's an Onion Town Grill on Water Street's going to be is sold and will be torn down later this year and replaced with a charter school. So that seems like that would have another impact on defections of students from our high school to alternative venues for education. And so it's possible that the high school will end up being a white elephant for us that would be, it won't be fully utilized. So I'm sure we'll be talking much more about that. And then one other item is next Tuesday evening at 7, the planning board is meeting to discuss the Maple Square project. This is kind of a new proposal. And when I asked about the plans, I was told they were online. So when I went online, I searched for them and couldn't find them. So the planning board and the planning department and the applicant have the plans, but the public doesn't. So I'm not clear how we're going to have a comprehensive discussion next Tuesday when we don't have all the information in front of us. I think, and it's kind of a common theme, right, that it's difficult for the public to get access to documentation so they can have it, they can participate in the discussion with all the information in front of them. So hopefully we can get that resolved before next Tuesday and then kind of promote it somehow. So
I can make sure that a plan set's available in the office tomorrow. I don't have background on that, but I will make sure.
Well, what I heard was that they were very large. There's a number of pages to the plans, and they're large, so I think it's difficult. They had to be broken out. That keeping one document was so big that it was difficult to transmit. But again, it's to the point of the website not really being the go-to place. I went there to the homepage and did a search on Maple Square with quotes, without quotes, and really came up with no documentation at all. So it's frustrating, not just for myself, but for others and people. When I make these comments at these meetings, people contact me afterwards and they express similar frustrations.
Just as, I will make sure tomorrow there is a physical, historically, there has always been a physical plan set in the department available for people to come see. We've never reproduced plan sets because they are often 24 by 36 and quite extensive, but there should be a physical copy available to the public to come and look at.
Yeah, and that's fine. People want to come in and get paper copies. That's, to be fair, if you go up to the second floor, you can get the documentation, but people don't necessarily want to print it out. They just want to be able to pull it up on their screen and be able to view it and then follow along while they're watching the presentation, so they can understand what if there's any potential issues or the comments, they can follow along at home. So
You
that's
were
all.
able to see a set upstairs?
I haven't tried to see
Okay,
them
all right.
upstairs, but I'm told that they're up there.
Okay,
And
good.
if a member of the public wanted to come and actually get them printed out, they'll do that for you. But I think it makes more sense just to have them online.
But they are online, correct?
No, they're not online.
Okay.
Not that I can tell. Maybe they are. I have a hard time finding things. But, all right, that's all I have.
Thank you. Maureen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say congratulations to the town meeting members that were sworn in last night. Thank you for volunteering. Don't forget about our Memorial Day parade on Monday at 8:15, 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. And I just had a question through you, Mr. Chairman, or for the town manager. With the rail trail, there's going to be some meetings coming up this week with the rail trail and the Danvers housing, which I can report next meeting. Steve, I just had a question about Chris Sanborn. Did he get appointed to the rail trail committee? Do you know? And like Aaron Henry,
Not to my knowledge.
not to your knowledge, no? Oh,
But
okay.
the,
Did I read that? or-
I don't know, yeah, not to my knowledge. That's news to me.
Okay, because I just was wondering about that, what the role was his role was going to be. I was just wondering about that. Maybe we can talk later about that. See, other than that, thank you, everybody, for volunteering. Congratulations to the chairman of the board, Gardner. No hard feelings. And Kathy did a great job, too, the clerk. I think she did a terrific job with all the setup and the count and being up there on the stage. And Pat, too. They did a great job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Gardner?
I'm all set.
Thank you. Dave, did you find that time on that
No,
Sunday?
Dan, I did not.
Okay,
But I'll have it, it's June 5th.
right,
Do we have a meeting before that?
no.
Maybe we could put those events on the calendar on the town's website so people.
They probably are.
We should just-
I bet they are, because the HRIC is developing a really wonderful website. Again, like Matt, I don't know how the hell to get, I don't know always how to get to everything, but I've seen it, and it's terrific. So go look.
Okay. And the Healing and Unity Experience Saturday, the 4th at the high school, I believe, is 10 to 2.
Was that high school? Okay.
High school,
Yeah.
10 to 2, yeah. Everybody all set? Thank you. So please, if you see a vet, say thank you for their service. And good night, Danvers, at 6:50.